Story 1. My laundry room is laid out so the dryer and washer cannot be side by side. They must be placed perpendicular to each other on either side of a water heater in the corner. The door of the front-load washer cannot be reversed, so it is always in the way when transferring clothes. It also makes the area around the water heater nearly inaccessible without moving the dryer several inches to the left. It haunts me and makes me secretly wish for the demise of my washer so I can get an old-school top-loader. Please pray for me. Story 2. My mother hired an interior designer for the renovations to our childhood home, and I dislike their taste. Story 3. Once upon a time, I worked at a toy store. One day, a woman came in upset and asked for help picking out Barbie cars. It turned out she had given her child a deluxe Barbie dream house for their birthday and a Barbie-sized SUV. And the SUV was too tall for the dream house garage. In the end, Barbie got a convertible. Story 4. The ice rink nearest my house has inconvenient hours, so I have to drive 25 minutes to another rink for my kids' figure skating. Story 5. I am teaching my children to ski, but they do not seem very interested, so I will probably go on my annual ski trip alone this year. Story 6. When I heat my outdoor and ground pool for too long, it feels like a bath. Story 7. I have a shelf with over 100 board games, and it is completely full. I have started placing a few games on top of the shelf, which does not look tidy. Story 8. I once heard someone say in all seriousness that it is so hard to buy art. They complained and sounded out of touch. Story 9. My mom likes to book cruises and gets great deals because she gambles in the casinos on the ships. She pays my way to go with her about once a year, and I pick up incidentals. I got divorced a while back and did not change my name because I wanted the same name as my kids while they were in school. Now my youngest is a senior in high school and I want to change back to my maiden name, but I cannot because for the last 10 years I have always had cruises booked and need to find a gap between bookings to do it. 20 years ago, I dreamed of having these types of stupid problems. Story 10. I no longer enjoy traveling to the Bahamas because I have been there so often. Story 11. I was telling my mother that my westbound flight to Australia would mean I would lose my Duolingo streak if I did not take action to fix it, such as changing my time zone before boarding the plane, and she justifiably laughed in my face. Story 12. Not a middle-class problem, but I am 6 foot 2 inches, and I found myself standing at a concert behind someone who must have been 6 foot 5 inches. My first thought was that I was not allowed to complain about this. Story 13. I am not upper middle class, but travel is my main discretionary expense. I save each year to take a week-long trip to Europe. This year I have to go to Germany for a wedding. That's a first-world problem. My annual European vacation has a fixed destination instead of letting me choose. Story 14. The local tire place we like did not have the performance tires for my wife's electric vehicle in stock, so we have had to wait 3 days for them to be shipped. Story 15. I thought once I had enough money, I could just pay people to make problems go away. Now I'm like, holy fuck. I paid $700 to have my gutters cleaned, and this is the quality I get? Story 16. Pretty much every day-to-day inconvenience we encounter in the Western world. The bagel shop was out of garlic bagels this morning. Story 17. My fiancé and I are having a destination wedding in Scotland. The dollar's decline has increased our costs by about 6% since we began planning. When it's all over, it will probably be a couple of $1,000s that are eaten up by exchange rates. It's not something I can complain about without sounding out of touch. Story 18. My boyfriend and I order out too much. We are not upper middle class, but we are definitely out of touch. Story 19. I get confused about which condiments are left at each house because we have more than one. Story 20. My recycling bin is full of Amazon boxes. I have more in the garage that I need to throw away. Story 21. My Mercedes-Benz windows are too tinted, so I cannot drive it safely at night. Story 22. Every year on my birthday we plan to take my parents' boat to the other side of the island, but the weather is always bad and we cannot go. Story 23. My coworkers complain that the taxes on their beach house are too high compared with technicians who earn 1/3 as much. Story 24. I am having a hard time choosing which Disneyland Paris hotel to stay in this year. I live in Europe. Story 25. No oil change shops can change my car's oil because it requires specialized tools specific to the vehicle's manufacturer. Story 26. Oh yeah, this isn't my thread. I'll just read to see how the other half lives. Story 27. I want all my clothes to be made from good quality fabrics, that is, fabrics such as wool, silk, cashmere, and linen. Story 28. Our 5-bedroom home with a 3-car garage has 3 children and the spare room is an office. So when family visits, which happens often, we do not have a guest room. We would like a larger house, but we are locked into such a low mortgage rate that we cannot move. Story 29. Our house is 200 feet too close to the school for them to be picked up by the bus. Normally I would not even complain, but with my wife's stage for cancer, anything I do not have to do, no matter how small, is a huge simplification in my life. Story 30. Yard work. I love the land, but I would not get so much if we move again. Story 31. Here is my middle-class problem from my lower paycheck life. My tiny 1-bedroom city apartment does not have enough room for my hoard of craft supplies. Story 32. After a while, it is like The Sims. Once you have upgraded every possible item, unless you want a yacht or a 10-room mansion, you have beaten the game and there is nothing left to do. Story 33. I have to pay for the upkeep of my house, but I am lucky to have one. Story 34. Sometimes I have to shuffle my cars to get to the one I need. Story 35. We are trying to buy a second car, but we do not like any of them. Story 36. My wife and I chose to live 45 minutes outside our city to have the country home and land we wanted. Our workplaces and the best daycare in the state are a 45-minute drive away. We also have an interest rate under 3% and bought our house for far less than it is now worth. We cannot bring it up because people say, well, move. And then we have to explain the perks of our property. Story 37. My company eliminated my business travel this year, so there is a good chance that I will not reach airline status. I have too much furniture in my 2,100 square foot townhouse. Story 38. An old coworker of mine was complaining about cleaning and covering her pool for winter, right after I had been talking about the hole in our roof that we could not afford to fix. Story 39. I regret asking for the black Land Cruiser for graduation and wish I had asked for the white. Story 40. I am not even slightly upper middle class. I come from a trash family and I am currently punching above my weight. I own too many motorcycles, which means I have to take a different one to work each day. Sometimes I drive my truck instead. I have to decide which vehicle to use to make sure they all stay charged and get used. Story 41. I do not know whether I should buy a new car with cash and make a 30% down payment on a house while keeping an emergency fund, or buy a house with cash, finance a car, and have no emergency fund. Story 42. My Mercedes is old enough that it does not have Bluetooth. Story 43. I own a second home in a coastal town, though it is not on the water. I live there in the summer and rent it in the off-season. The quality of tenants has drastically decreased over the last few years, so I decided not to rent it this year. I also drive an older Mercedes-Benz E-Class. It does not have any universal serial bus Type C ports, and it does not have enough universal serial bus Type A ports. Story 44. I own my house outright at 35. I bought it with cash. I was able to do that only because my father died and I sold my childhood home. I did not want the old house. It was 100 years old, everything was broken, and I was exhausted from handling my father's affairs when he became ill. I sold it and bought a townhouse that requires little upkeep. I am grateful not to have a mortgage, but I would rather have my father alive and healthy. I miss him every day. Story 45. I cannot stand how lonely and unwalkable my neighborhood is. Nearly every house is 3 stories, with multiple cars in the driveway, yards full of blooming flowers and many trees. You can hear so much wildlife at all times. My mom has a few gardens with fresh vegetables and people often leave their car doors unlocked. It is a nice middle-class suburban neighborhood, but I cannot walk anywhere. It would be nice to have a coffee shop within walking distance or a public park with a swing set that I would not have to drive 10 to 15 minutes to reach. Story 46. I have a backlog of 27 Lego sets, and my husband has 13. We need to build some to make room for new sets. Story 47. I have to work not because I need the money, but because I need the health insurance. Story 48. I have a hard time finding what I want to watch among all the streaming platforms. I do not mind paying for them, but I waste a lot of time switching between apps and searching. Story 49. At 34, I inherited my parents' 401k retirement plans and individual retirement accounts after they died. But because of current tax laws, I cannot access the funds until I reach retirement age without suffering severe tax consequences. I have a lawyer and a financial advisor, and the advisor is handling everything. I understand I must withdraw the funds within a specific time frame. The rules are different because my parents died before reaching retirement age and had not yet taken distributions from the accounts. Story 50. With my current savings plan, I am projected to retire at age 65. I want to retire at age 50. Story 51. Work wants me to travel to India in November for about 10 days, and I cannot be bothered. Partly because I already went to India earlier this year on holiday, and I would be flying to India 3 days after I returned from an 11-day trip to Mexico. But I would not want to go anyway, even if those things were not the case. To be honest, work travel for me is not glamorous and it is grueling. I am not an executive or anything like that. I inspect factories, and my company flies me on the cheapest poor-quality economy flights. It is not a holiday. I was complaining about going, and someone I was complaining to got upset because they said, I would love to go to India and you are going for free, so it is insensitive to complain. Story 52. I am looking for a good, trustworthy, reasonably priced cleaner. Before anyone criticizes me, I think $30 to $40 an hour per person is reasonable for a house where 2 people live, who keep things relatively tidy but do not like to vacuum or do the once-a-month cleaning tasks, because we both work all day. Story 53. I am not upper middle class, but middle class. My job is boring, and I do nothing half the time. Story 54. I spent thousands setting up a vegetable garden. I'm getting vegetables, but those tomatoes are expensive. Story 55. I receive enough items shipped to me that I inevitably encounter the deterioration of modern carriers. United Parcel Service, Federal Express, and United States Postal Service have each either permanently or temporarily lost items I ordered this year, in some cases for 2 weeks or more. Story 56. We cannot get a Roth individual retirement account because we make too much money. I am seeking diversification. Story 57. My wife and I went on a transatlantic cruise this summer. For 7 days, out in the middle of the North Atlantic, hundreds of miles from anywhere, surrounded by nothing but ocean, I was the most content and at peace I have ever been. Gosh darn it, I can't be on vacation all the time, but truth be told, I would do anything to go back. Story 58. In my exercise class today, I had to start on the treadmill even though I usually start on the rower. Story 59. I was going to be on unemployment for a year and spend time with my youngest daughter, but then I was offered a good job. I know a lot of people are struggling to get back to work, but I just wanted to go to the zoo with her. My last employer wrongfully terminated me after I applied for leave under the Family and Medical Leave Act. I will not be thinking about a 9-to-5 job on my deathbed. I can work from home 3 days a week, but the commute is an hour and a half. I just want to relax with my girls and raise them. Story 60. A while ago, I was complaining to myself about how I would never be able to afford a grand suite on a cruise ship because they are so absurdly expensive. Then I realized that being able to go on any cruise at all every couple of years is already an incredible luxury. Story 61. I have a good one. I had a breakdown yesterday because I couldn't find a wedding band that fit my engagement ring. Its halo is too large. Story 62. My dad complained that he wants to go to a restaurant, but no one will go with him. He and my cousin get along well because my dad likes to eat out and my cousin wants someone else to pay. Story 63. Not being able to buy a €750,000 home in my town because there is too much demand. Story 64. The annual fee on my credit card increased by almost $200. I travel frequently enough to justify it for lounge access, and I use almost all the credits and perks that come with it. Damn. Story 65. My days consist of going to my well-paid job and taking care of my loving family. Under the surface, my job is a real burden and my children are so needy that I am barely the person I used to be. So my upper middle class problem is that my comfortable life is not very enjoyable. Story 66. We did not get enough fresh snow on our 6-week ski vacation in the Austrian Alps last season, which was disappointing. Story 67. I volunteer with youth in foster care and I love buying them treats and gifts. I often hold back or lie that the volunteer organization will reimburse me because I do not want to make my relationship with the children or their foster parents awkward. It is heartbreaking when children have needs or pain that I could address with my credit card. Story 68. Peak charge hours from the electric company interfere with my preferred time for a sauna session. I can afford a home sauna but cannot afford to quadruple my electric bill each winter for an at-home luxury. Laughing out loud. Story 69. When my smart fridge loses wireless internet and suddenly thinks we're living in the Stone Age. Story 70. We pay someone to scoop the dog poop in our backyard twice a week. He only came once last week because of Labor Day, and my husband stepped in poop this morning. It is a hard life. Story 71. I received a call from the Rolex dealer about a date but I could not get it in time because I went straight from my Ibiza vacation to Sardinia. Story 72. I have 2 right now. 1. My cleaning person retired, and I am having a terrible time finding a new one who is nearly as good as she was. 2. Between business and personal travel plans, I will be home for only 2.5 weeks from next weekend until the end of the year. Story 73. My in-laws want to take us to Italy next year for my father-in-law's 70th birthday. Between that and a wedding we have to travel for, it will take most of our vacation time. Story 74. I have a well-paying, fairly easy job that I hate and dread going to every day because it bores me. Most people's advice is, go be homeless and see how much you like that. Or be grateful. People would kill for that. I know that logically, but it does not stop me from hating life right now and spending all my efforts trying to find a way to escape that does not involve ending my life. I'm sorry you're feeling this way. If you are thinking about harming yourself, please contact local emergency services or a crisis line right now. If you are in the United States, call or text 988 for immediate support. If you want, I can help you find more resources or edit this further. Story 75. I want to go to Italy and Greece at the same time, but I may have to choose one and visit the other later. Story 76. I have too much stuff. I am moving soon, so I have to sort through it all. Story 77. I cannot remember the last time I was on a flight that was not delayed. Story 78. The airport lounges for my premium credit card are usually overcrowded and have a wait list to get in. What is the point of paying the annual fee for this benefit if you cannot reliably use it? Story 79. Gold is getting expensive and it is taking longer for me to save up to buy an ounce. Story 80. My house needs a lot of work. I can easily afford it, but I cannot find the time or energy to locate contractors to complete the work. Story 81. My house cleaners routinely do strange things that annoy us but are inconsequential, and we would never say anything about it. They put items in random drawers or bags and organize things that do not go together at all. Story 82. The sourdough bread I love to buy at Whole Foods was pre-sliced a few weeks ago instead of being sold unsliced, and I am still thinking about it. Story 83. We have family in both Europe and Asia. Every holiday we struggle to decide where to go. Story 84. I hired a cleaning service and am deciding whether to have them come on a day I'm in the office and leave them unattended in my apartment, or on a day I work from home and have to deal with the vacuum noise while I work. Story 85. High property taxes mean more expensive houses are hit hard by these kinds of measures. Story 86. I have too much stuff. More art than I have wall space for, more crafting supplies than my crafting area can hold, and more food than my pantry can fit. I am starting to realize why people buy McMansions. They provide enough space for all their things. Story 87. The challenge of getting a reservation at an in-demand restaurant in a major city during a time when many people are searching. Story 88. I got a new vehicle for work that doubles as my personal car. The catch is it has a dash camera with a global positioning system. I hate that my employer can stream the dash camera at any time, and it keeps a record of everywhere I have been. Story 89. My backyard is too big to let my children, 3 and 1.5 years old, play unsupervised. I envy people with small yards where you can see the entire yard from the back patio. I just want to sit and relax while they play, but I have to follow them around. I also lose track of my children in the house all the time. Story 90. Newsroom drama is not really pertinent. If you are televised, you have the same core problem no matter where you work. Story 91. I have spent more time fixing up my sailboat than actually sailing it. Story 92. My car is a 2023 model and does not have heated seats. I bought it in June, so that was not top of mind, and I assumed it had them because the 2004 car I traded in had them. Surely they are standard by now, right? I never dreamed I'd miss them so much. Laughing out loud. Story 93. My husband and I do not want to be bothered with yard work, so we hire someone to do it. Story 94. Problems are problems, and while money cures many of them, it mainly does so by allowing alternatives and options that also have their own issues. We recently started having cleaners come twice a month, which is great, but now we have to coordinate the dogs and our schedules around them. I have also had to deal with 2 minor damage incidents. When we had less income, vacations were trips to the beach in Florida. Now we plan longer trips to bigger destinations, but we usually end up on the beach anyway. Our cars got nicer, but insurance and repair bills increased, and options for service became more limited. My biggest problem that matches the question is whether I should renew my club membership for next year or accept the cost of moving to a nicer club and paying another initiation fee. Story 95. I have too many vehicles and not enough places to park them. Story 96. We have struggled for the last 2 years to find a reliable lawn service. There was poor communication, inconsistent mowing, and this year no one would even come out to provide an estimate. Out of desperation, we hired a local high school student, and he has been the best since our first lawn care provider. Story 97. We bought a lake house an hour away and a boat a couple of years ago. My husband and I are in our mid-40s, work full-time, and have 2 teenagers. Because of the house, the boat, and the kids' sports schedules, we really only fully enjoy it in summer. My husband is obsessed with both the house and the boat. I find it a huge pain each weekend in summer to leave our home, tell the kids they cannot make plans unless they invite friends to the lake house, plan meals, and then return Sunday evening to get ready for the work week and real life. It is a privileged problem, but it gets old fast. Story 98. Our cleaners always put the rotating plate in the microwave back incorrectly. I do not notice until I use the microwave and the plate thumps around off-center until I fix it. Story 99. I had a support system to get sober. Being sober sucks. Story 100. I am tired of making connections. I want non-stop flights everywhere. Story 101. When the cleaners come to clean my house, they sometimes move things and I have to spend an extra minute looking for them. Story 102. Not having freedom or a social life while attending online college because my parents are paying the tuition and I need to fulfill my part of the deal to receive it. I think many people would trade places with me. I hear many have to work while in college, but I am so lonely. The financial sponsorship has conditions. Do not date anyone. My father does not want any men to touch me or have sex with me, and do not form group friendships because he considers a social life unnecessary. It does not help that I live with mentally unstable parents who can be happy one day and create chaos the next, even telling me they wish I had not been born. Needless to say, I am extremely lonely and sometimes look forward to finishing my degree so I can move out and start my life, although I am currently mourning the missed social life and networking opportunities. If you are wondering, no, colleges here do not offer housing benefits. It is up to you to find housing, and landlords can set any price they want. More often than not, the cost is abysmally high. Story 103. Our 18-year-old daughter thinks we have plenty of money and is comfortable charging purchases to the credit card for which she is an authorized user. We pay her university fees and cover her rent, car, auto insurance, and phone, and give her a $600 monthly allowance, yet she still asks to put purchases on my credit card. At least she asks beforehand. Story 104. The cost of private schools has increased much more rapidly than inflation. A pension pot worth £1.2 million will get you almost nothing in terms of an annuity. Someone at my level of seniority in my profession 30 years ago could easily have afforded a spacious 5-bedroom house in the home counties. Story 105. I have a wall full of compact discs, digital versatile discs, and Blu-ray discs that I rarely use anymore. Story 106. I get a $50 Saks credit twice a year with my Platinum American Express. I refuse to let it go to waste, but I also do not want to be taken advantage of and spend $300 just to save $50. So I spend a whole day every 6 months trying to find something at Saks that costs almost exactly $50 that I will use, and that is a good deal. It is nearly impossible and adds unnecessary stress to my life. Story 107. Glucagon like Peptide 1, Ozempic, taken by my wife and me, is getting in the way of buying her a Porsche Macan Gran Turismo Sport this year. I owe her that because I bought the Corvette without talking to her first. Story 108. I can't find any goddamn egg bagels in my city. When I ask for an egg bagel, they tell me about bagel sandwiches with fried eggs. I don't want an egg sandwich. I want an egg bagel, a bright yellow bagel colored by egg yolks. That's all I want. Story 109. I bought my home in 2017 for $286,000. It has doubled in value since then. My wife and I now earn far more than we did in 2017 and want to upgrade. We are looking at homes in the $1,200,000 range. We live in a lower cost of living area. We considered tripling our mortgage, which is a fair increase, but it is the number we chose while still maintaining our monthly savings goals, disposable income, and other expenses. Many people cannot afford homes, and yet we are upgrading significantly because we want to. Some people criticize the cost even though we are comfortable with it. Story 110. I can book tea times only after noon because I am a social member of the country club, not a full golf member. Story 111. I am not upper class, but I have an annual percentage rate of 2.9% and am stuck in my starter home. It is an incredible blessing, but I am sometimes upset because the house feels smaller as my family grows. I feel guilty even posting this here. I understand that it is far better than what many other people have. Story 112. Travel sports for our child are killing us. We have not had time or money for a vacation in 2 years because it is so expensive and so time-consuming. I grew up very poor and wanted to give him the opportunities one never had. He is all that matters, but I just want to be away from my house for 2 days without lugging tents and snacks and talking to sports parents. Story 113. I ran out of space to display my hobby, Star Wars Lego minifigures. I have far too many. Story 114. I do not have a craft room and must use my laser machine in the garage. Sigh. Story 115. I do not feel like we have any money because we pay $3,000 per month in student loans. We also have a mortgage, spend an absurd amount on eating out, pay for my cat's medicine, and take vacations. Not too long ago, we did not even make $3,000 per month, so I have to remind myself we have come a long way. Even if a friend says, oof, sorry you make that much, meaning too little. Comparison is the thief of joy. Story 116. My two $650 4K monitors are not enough because I have too many things going on when I use my computer for fun after work. I need a third monitor, but my desk is not large enough, so I also need a larger desk. Story 117. Wow. I hate all of you. I cannot even afford a haircut, and I work more than 50 hours a week. Story 118. We are considering a vacation home but cannot find one within our budget in the desirable areas where we want to buy. The second home would also cost more than our primary residence and would have a higher mortgage rate. Also, lifestyle creep is a killer for the middle and upper middle class. Story 119. I haven't been able to spend much time at my vacation house, so I don't get to use it as much as I'd like. Story 120. Last year we did some remodeling, and this year we had a new roof installed. Working from home during those projects was difficult. Story 121. I am annoyed by how often I have to donate items at least twice a year. It is not that I do not want to get rid of them. I hate clutter. The process is work I do not want to do. Story 122. My children and I are bad at waiting in line, so I had to buy the express passes for Universal Studios. Story 123. We are cash poor. We have a large amount of equity in our house and in a 401k retirement account. However, when my wife was laid off, it reduced our cash flow by half. Now our debt-to-income ratio is high, so it is difficult to access that money. We have the funds we need, but accessing them would have serious consequences. Story 124. My first world problem revolves around my car. I rarely listen to the radio, but it always turns on when I start the car, even though I turn it off every time I get in. Every fucking time. It is infuriating, and there is no workaround, as this is a known problem with my brand of car. Story 125. My parents earn too much for me to qualify for college financial aid, but I'm not getting any money from them. Story 126. My swimming pool gets too warm in the summer, but this is a first world problem. Story 127. I started a new job, signed up for the 401k retirement plan, and calculated my monthly contribution to max it out this year. Later, I learned that the first contribution would be taken from my second paycheck, so I was annoyed to redo the calculation. Story 128. An upper-middle-class friend of mine complained that his $600 Italian jeans were on backorder and probably wouldn't arrive before he left for Curacao. Story 129. I lost my acoustic grand piano in a divorce and now have to play on a digital piano. Story 130. The bane of my existence is trying to figure out what to make for dinner. I am not rich enough to eat out every night or to have a meal service or personal chef. Sigh. Story 131. I wish my wife and I could spend more time at our vacation home. It is our favorite place, and we are both remote employees for the most part. However, our parents are in poor health, so we feel guilty going. Story 132. I have to travel to Europe for work. They are making me fly economy class, which I do not usually do anymore, and I am dreading it. Story 133. I lost the remote control for my air conditioner and heater, so now I have to get up and walk to the thermostat to change the temperature. Story 134. We only have a 2-car garage but own 2 large sport utility vehicles. It is so tight that I cannot access my husband's car until he moves it out of the garage. When it rains or snows, it is unpleasant to have to go outside. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.